So the last image in this series is what I've called the old man showing the road. And it's the archetypal wise old man that will come up with some advice when you most need it. It's Gandalf, it's Yoda, it's all those characters you've seen in movies that shows up and show you the way. And that's what this picture is about. I mentioned that there's two parts to this story. There's the breakup and then being a little bit down and then coming up, seeing the possibilities, the big white picture. And then it comes to this image where the wise old man passes by, Brother, where art thou style, which you see here, and he preaches the truth, tells you where the road goes. So that's the basis for this image. Really excited about it. I've photographed quite a few old men, and I'm always intrigued by them and their stories and what they could bring to a photograph. So we're starting in this with a color palette that should be brighter and a little bit happier, right? Becoming strong, emotionally, it's forward. Sun is going to be lower, reeking through the landscape, not so dense and emotional in this. Now, part of the inspiration for this image is definitely Brother, Where Art Thou? But I'm going to set it again in the context of a little fashiony storytelling with the woman in there. So coming around the bend in this landscape is the handcart with the old guy on it and the girl following, the hair is flowing, the dress is flowing, and it's sort of describing that onward feeling. So in front of me here, I have a few references that I love. Obviously, a few screen grabs from the movie Brother, Where Art Thou? I have some old references to the handcart. I'll talk about that in a minute and how we solve the old handcart situation. There's a casting image, and then there's a bigger mood board that sets the tone for what I really want to speak to. Old guy in wardrobe, flowy dress, big landscape that travels through these grassy things with beautiful trees and mountains in the back. And then a little bit for the color palette and tonality. Again, same process. We see a picture, we think about an emotion, we get inspired, and then pulling together the visuals that can help you, and in this instance me, find clarity in what this idea would look like, and then getting all the team members on board when you describe your vision. Here there's not as clear as some of the others where I only had 2-3 pictures. Here there's many, one for the guy, one for the girl, one for the space, one for the tonality, and one for the storytelling piece. So there's a few components to putting together this last image in our series. The background plate, we're going to shoot in the eastern side of the Sierras. We're going to drive across the mountains 6-7 hours and do a background plate. It's a location there that I've been wanting to shoot at a long time, so that's where we'll capture the background. And then we're going to come back to California and we're going to shoot railroad tracks that travels into this landscape. Now, a few things when it comes to this particular part of the picture that's been a little challenging. Number one is finding a railroad track where it's safe to shoot. Most of the railroad tracks are active, so you can't just show up and spend a couple of hours. You're going to have a train coming. Not a good idea. So what we did was to look at railroad museums. We have looked at 4 different ones until we settled on one that's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from San Francisco that only runs their trains on weekends. So we're going to be there on a weekday and have the tracks to ourselves. So that part solved. Then it was the cart. Not that easy to find an antique cart that I wanted for this image. What we found was a new one, and after a lot of searching, talking about shipping, driving, getting these old ones to this railroad museum, we decided to go with the new one and have a set designer dress it to look old. So they're fairly simple in the construction in that there's a platform and then there's the metal bars that pushes this up and down. We're going to put old wood down on the platform, and then I think they do it with tape. I'm not a set dresser, but we hired a guy that will do this for us. I think they tape it up and then they paint and dress and distress the metal to look old. So it's been a little bit of an effort, but we now have the elements that we need. A background location that we went through the same process again, scouting it, finding our camera angles, going through that process, and then finding railroad tracks, finding the cart, and then obviously casting. There's a little bit different of a process here and then the other pictures. I have the model here, which is almost as easy as calling a modeling agency and describe what you want, and they will send you some people. Finding an older guy that fits this character is a little bit more intensive. You could hire a casting agent that will go and find these guys for you, or in California we have something called the Casting Network. So we remember there, and we post a description. We actually posted this mood board and say this is the story you want to tell, and this goes out to actors. So it's a very different talent pool. All kinds of people of all kinds of colors and shape are in the acting community in California, and this is where we tapped into, and we found this awesome guy, gray beard, old looking. We're going to dress him up. He's not going to be nicely groomed. I talked to the hair and makeup person about who this character is. So he will be a little dirty. He will have all this character to his face. I'm going to fuss him up a little bit. So again, it's important to do these mood boards, not just for you to create a picture in your mind or help visualize what you want to do, but also again to describe for the crew members that's with you what your vision is. This is my vision right here. It's just this beautiful, beautiful portrait of a guy. So this is our inspiration for transforming this guy into this in some ways. When it comes to the gear for this, it's fairly simple. The landscape, one camera on a tripod following the light. The camera for the landscape kind of get dictated by what I want to shoot the people with. So if I were to just shoot a landscape, I probably would have used a medium format camera, but the people I want to shoot with a Canon. Again, it's that sense of motion and sense of speed that I want to capture, which is easier with a smaller format camera. So when I have the dress and the hair flowing, I want to be able to just go and shoot a lot of frames. So with that, I established that I want to shoot this on the Canon, and then the background also happens on the Canon. So I really just want to have this low reeking light coming across, so maybe it's just a bounce, or maybe it's a silk to shape it, no strobes on this. So that's the nuts and bolts for creating this image, the casting, the people, the location, the emotion. The next step will be to go on a tech scout, and I'll show you that process, and after that we'll create the image.